Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Saturday. My name is Pamphile, and today we're going to be talking about professional development with NAAHP, behaviors and mindset for professional success. And today we have with us Mr. Babs Faseesin. Um, I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you all about him. So, Mr. Babs, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm very well, thank you, Wolf. Thank you for having me on the show. Um,
Very welcome.
as, as you have mentioned, my name is Babs Faseesin, and I am the Chief Strategy Officer of Roots Consulting and the founder of Cracking the Life Code. I'm the recent author of the book Cracking the Life Code as well, and I'm very passionate about helping young, upwardly mobile individuals align their mindsets, their habits and behaviors with their successes or plans for success, if you will.
That's amazing. I think that's one of the most important part about success is that you think work hard and work hard and work hard and work hard, go to school, but there's a whole aspect of it that is as important, maybe even more important, which is the mindset, like the ability to switching, like it's like a light switch when you kind of like turn it on, you can unlock a whole different avenue of possibilities for your life.
Absolutely.
Um, so thank you for joining us today. So we having a giveaway towards the end of the show, and Babs will be giving us 30 minutes of free consultation. Just join the raffle here. It's type hashtag PD with NAAHP to enter to win a LinkedIn profile audit uh, with Babs. Um, so moving on, Babs. So I'm going to the questions will flow, because I'm genuinely interested in knowing more about you. And so let's just start with this. Like, so what does success mean to you?
Well, honestly, after 20 years of personal development and constant work on myself, I have come to define success as very simple as these three words. So to me, success is meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. So a person who's able to find meaning, achieve purpose, and find some fulfillment in life has achieved a significant amount of success. So that's how I define success in my life as of today.
And like, so how did you because you're very straight to it. I like that. You know exactly, like, I know these three things, whatever I'm doing in life, these are my three pillars, right? So how did you get to those three things? Like, how did you start with 20, or did you always have the three? Did you have 100, or did you have none at all? So how did you get to those three?
Thank you. That's a beautiful question. Frankly speaking, when I started out as a young kid born on the continent of Africa, I saw a lot of devastation around me, and one day my mom, I ran into the room and saw my mom crying. And I asked her why she was crying. I was pretty young at the time. And she said to me it was because her mom had given her an information that was not nice. It was not a good information. It was not a good news at the time. And she was crying because she really couldn't help her mother. That broke me because I was very sad to see my mother crying because she could not offer any help to her mother at that time. So in that at that very young age, I decided that I'll do everything within my power to ensure that I build a life where I'm able to offer help to everybody that I love at every point where they need help from me. And so, as I began that journey, I realized if I would achieve this objective and this goal in life, I would need to put some pillars in place. Initially, of course, starting off life, coming out of college, the goal was to build as much money, as much wealth as possible, make all the money there is in the world, and then, buy the fancy cars, build or own the biggest homes in town. And I realized very quickly that that was driving me nuts. It was driving me crazy because then I was working several hours. I was on the plane at least 3, 4 times a week. Um, and my body was not really enjoying that. So I paid a lot of attention to my career, but a lot of other areas of my life was falling apart. And then my mom got sick, and this was the time of the defining moment for me. That was the time I realized that at the end of it all, money is only a tool to achieve a specific purpose. And so I realized that my mom, who was my hero, who had done everything for me in life, is sick and completely weak. And seeing her in that vulnerable state made me realize that I needed to pay a lot more attention to other areas of my life other than chasing money and chasing wealth. And that's why I refocused and redefined success for myself.
Mm. That is, wow, that's powerful, man. I can't imagine what you went through, but I'm sure it has a lot of impact on you. And I mean, over the years, that's you know, um, I just want to ask you, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who feel the same way that you do, having life experiences that impacted them in their developing years, over lifetime. But how do you differentiate the events that you should let guide you towards a higher purpose and the ones that you shouldn't? Like, because the saying that somebody has a chip on their shoulder, and that can be good or bad. So how do you differentiate the experiences that you should let guide you to find your purpose or the meaning to success?
I thank you for that question. I believe very strongly that there are no coincidences in life. And
Mm.
I believe very strongly that everything that we experience in life is meant to help us. And so when we go through life experiences, I believe quite frankly that pain has a purpose. There's
Hmm.
always a purpose in pain. And so when we go through life's pain and life's troubles and life's challenges, there's always a lesson in there for us. It's either preparing us for a greater goal or a
Yep.
greater objective, or it's maybe holding us back from a tragedy that we might have run into if we continued on the path of on the highway, if we didn't experience any bumps at all. So I feel that every single experience of my life is very important to me, and I take every one of them very seriously. I guess what I do is evaluate each one of these experiences and ask myself, what are the learning moments from these experiences? What is the lesson that I need to take out of this specific experience? In the case of my mother, it was the fact that I saw her wake up, the first person to wake up in the morning and the last person to go to bed. She had a 9 to 5. She had several other businesses that she had to cater to during the day. She was the best mother in the world. She was the best wife anyone could ask for. And then she was the greatest sister. But then what she did was she paid attention to all of these other needs. But then on her list, she came least on her list. She
Mm.
was at the bottom of her list, and she wanted to ensure that everybody else was satisfied. She wanted to ensure that she got to the peak of her career. She wanted to ensure that she achieved, success not for herself but her family, which are all fantastic goals and objectives and things to have. But then she did all of that at the expense of her health. So when I saw that personal experience, I mean, it meant something to me. So every time I go through an experience like that, I evaluate the experience and ask myself, where is the learning moment in this experience?
Mm.
What is it I'm supposed to pick out of this specific experience that could help me achieve a greater purpose? And of course, you also would agree with me that you have to have understood maybe clearly what your purpose is before you begin to think in this manner. Otherwise, you might not really take note of some of these experiences and understand the role that they play in helping you fulfill your purpose.
That was a beautiful way to put it, man. Because that leads into my next question. So, how does someone find the meaning for themselves? How do you find your purpose?
Todd Rose, he's a Harvard professor, and the author of this book called Dark Horse. And he has other books, but I read this one.
It's a
This
dark
one,
horse.
yeah,
Mhm.
Dark Horse. And in that book, he said, happiness is found on the road less traveled.
Hmm.
So, and that makes a lot of sense to me. In finding meaning and purpose in life, we've got to reach within. We are in a we live in a society where everybody looks and yeah, everybody looks at the externalities. Not a lot of people pay attention to themselves, to look within. And very often our purpose and meaning is really not from the exterior, it's from within us. So we can always find meaning and purpose in life from within us. And so I like to say very often that many people spend a lot of time thinking about everything else but themselves. And so when you realize that you have to pay attention to yourself, you might begin to think towards how to think internally to find some of the deep answers to the questions of life. Now, finding meaning and finding purpose in life is very easy. I think that there's a deep desire within every one of us to do something specific in life. Now, we might call it a passion, we might call it, a pet project, we might call it a desire or an interest, whatever we want to call it. But if you take a look at your life from childhood all the way to where you are today, and just ask simple questions like, what got me super excited? What did I do seamlessly that I did not struggle with? What
Hmm.
were some of the things that I had deep genuine desires for, even as a kid? By the time you put down a list of all of those, you would always find one single thread that runs through all of those. That single thread could lead you towards your meaning, could lead you towards your purpose. This was simply the exercise that I did for myself. It's the same exercise I take my clients through very often. They think about so many things that are not related in their life. They go, oh, well, I did sports. Oh, well, I did volunteering. I did this and that, but they're not related. That's true. It's okay. They might not be related. They might be completely disjointed, but make a list of all those things from your childhood as far back as you can remember. And now take a look at every one of the things you have itemized. You would see one single thread that runs through it. For me, what I found through the course of my exercise was the fact that I pretty much exist to inspire people to greatness. That's essentially my purpose. And what I realized is at the age of 6, I appeared on television reciting poems. Now
Wow.
you might say, what does poem mean? I mean, how does that even? I was just, I was just a kid. I was just reciting poems. But then when I would show up in school the next day, I would see parents of kids saying to me, "Oh, that was a fantastic poem," and they would encourage their kids to learn poetry. And then as I moved ahead in life, I realized that I got pulled into leading conferences. At 17, I led my first conference, where it was inspiring young adults to a greater life. In college, I was a public speaker throughout college, got out of college and picked a career in strategy, again to help develop people. So when I look at all the experiences of my life, I don't have enough time to mention all of them. The one thing that I continue to see is I'm constantly seeking to inspire someone to greatness. I'm constantly seeking to push someone, to make a way for someone, to help someone. And ultimately, I found out that that was my purpose.
Listen, every time you answer a question, I'm like, wow, you know, you are a great speaker because if somebody can say all these without saying like I would usually, I'm just I'm watching you speak and it's just it's fantastic. Like you are a great speaker. And I think you inspiring me right now as we're talking to improve my speaking, my
Thank you.
you know and I think this is what I enjoy in these conversations because I get to talk with people I probably would. I mean, I'm sure we could run into each other, but we probably wouldn't have such in-depth discussions. And to watch you speak is inspiring because I'm like, oh man, I want you inspiring me to improve my speaking skills. Even though I
That,
love speaking, but I haven't really practiced as I should on it.
thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I appreciate it.
Listen, I think it takes a lot of self awareness to understand where you're kind of like lacking, and that's one area I know I can improve in. So that I'm willing to open and say that. Um, So, is there such a thing as a bad definition for success?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I see it every day. I talk to
Mm,
clients every day who have defined success in the most detrimental way. There are people who say success means as much money as they can possibly get into their bank account. For
mm,
some people, success means being famous. That's what they consider to be success: being famous, Instagram famous, social media famous, whatever form of fame that they could get. So there are different ways in which people have defined success. I'm not here to define to help anybody, tell them their definition of success. But I feel very strongly that when we focus on the material things or the physical things or the externalities of the world as though we live in the movie theater or we
mhm,
live in the movie world,
mhm,
that's not our reality. We have to come down to the reality and understand that success for us has to be beyond the material things that we are looking to achieve in our life. So I feel very strongly that there are several definitions of success that could that could use some help.
you say, you're trying to be diplomatic. We can just say that they're bad. It's all right. I'll say it for you. It's okay. I'll say it for you. So let's say it's like you have a client that comes to you and they're in that situation where they have this definition of success, this idea of success that is, they think it would give them happiness, but in the meantime, it's destroying them. So how do you help them recalibrate themselves to go back to the right path, or like to have a better definition of success? How do you work with them and do that? What's the process?
Very often, I take a lot of time to chat with my clients. I spend a lot of time to do what I call realistic self-assessment
Hmm.
and ask them to be as honest as possible when I ask them certain questions. The, the truth is, when we understand the purpose of money, our desire for money or our relationship for money might change.
Mm,
So when we're talking fundamentally about professional development today, and I meet a lot of young professionals and executives who are my clients, constantly there is that desire to increase income, to increase salaries, to
hmm,
chase a few more dollars, which is fine. In my book, Cracking the Life Code, I did mention in my book that the life is divided into three. There is the morning time of life, the afternoon time of life, and the night time of life.
mm,
And if you put MAN together, it makes man. And that's essentially what it is. Man is really expected to live through the morning time of life, which is a time when we're very young and we're taking up all the all the information, mopping up information as much as we can, and building up experiences. We don't yet know exactly how to live life by any codes of our own. And
hmm,
then afternoon time is when we have all the energy. We've got all the basics, the habits, the behavior to live in society, to succeed in life as an individual, and we have all the energy. But then there's always going to come a nighttime when we want to go to bed, and that time is when is the most important time, if you ask me, because what we do in the afternoon time will determine how we sleep at night. So
mm,
I usually encourage professionals to understand that success or professional success is not really only about dollars and cents. In some instances, they may need to recalibrate. And to do this, I have to begin to think of deeper meaning and deeper purpose, something beyond the the dollars that they
yeah,
can
yeah,
look forward to. Again, a very good example is when COVID happened in 2020, and we experienced uh, a devastation that's that shook the whole world. We realized at the blink of an eye that it doesn't matter how advanced you are in your career, you could lose your job.
yeah. Mm,
Your job can disappear overnight. During that moment, when I was talking to some of my clients, I reminded them of my favorite quote where I said, job can be replaced, but your health cannot be replaced.
Mm.
So focus, prioritize on that which cannot be replaced rather than that which can be replaced. Family cannot be replaced, health cannot be replaced. And so many people, for the first time, had the opportunity to be in the same house with their family, their spouses, and their children for the first time for a long time.
Yeah.
And many people began to say, wow, is this how life could have been this whole time? I had no idea. That's what led to the Great Resignation. And
Hmm.
now we are experiencing the Great Resignation Part 2, which is now being called quiet quitting,
Quite
where
clear.
quiet quitting, yeah. So people are quitting quietly, but that means most people who are beginning to return or who didn't have the opportunity to quit their job
Mm. Hmm.
during the during the Great Resignation, for whatever reasons, maybe because they have bills to pay, they are responsible for some people, and they couldn't quit their jobs. Now they are quiet quitting, and what that really means is their bodies are at the job, but their minds are not at the job. Their
Mm.
bodies are physically at the job, but they do not pay any attention to the job. They do not wish to be there. So you'll
Yeah.
find a lot of people who are at work, but they're saying to themselves, I could really be with my husband right now and
Mm.
having a good time. Or I could be reading to my 2-year-old at home right now. I shouldn't be here. So that's also happening right now. I guess when we understand or when we have a taste of something deeper than what money can buy, which is very often I say to my clients as well, that you want to focus on that which money cannot buy, because that which money can buy, you can always replace. But then you want to focus on the part of your life where money cannot purchase, for health, for instance, health and wellness, family and relationships. Those are very important. So when I place some of these in on the table for my clients, they begin to change their perspective towards money, and they begin to recalibrate and their desires and what their goals are professionally.
It's even me, I went through the I went through the great resignation because I for the last 8 years I was working as a paralegal and I thought I was gonna be an attorney. I studied for the LSAT, read all the books and all that, registered for to take the exam, but when it came time to do it, I was just like, I can't. I can't. And then from there on, I kind of like I was in the wind a little bit, and then COVID came, and I realized that most of my time was spent at work. And now that I'm home, even though I'm working at home, but I'm home all the time, and I'm realizing like, oh man, like this is not exactly like what I want to do forever. And then it's like, then what's next? That was the next question, like what's next? So that kind of like triggered a whole different thought process of like, like a mind shift. Like, what do I want to be next? Like, what do I see myself? What am I interested in? And it was a rough time, to be in the house all the time thinking. It was a rough time. Um, so I wanted to ask you. So, what are some successful people that you look up to?
That's an interesting question
Like, if
because
I asked you for like your top five.
I'm surprised. I'll be surprised if you even know any one of them, because they are not your typical successful people. In
Oh,
fact,
okay.
as I speak right now, one of the people that I look up to is all the way in Africa,
Mm,
and he's not known, he's not recognized, um, but he models success for me in the most exemplary way. And there are other people. So I'm sorry, I might not find any name that you know in the public eye, that of a person that demonstrates or that represents success for me. But I think very strongly that if a person is able to achieve meaning, purpose, and fulfillment, that individual is successful. And I tell you what, there are so many successful people walking the streets today. They are not recognized, they are not known, but they are successful. And that's exactly the kind of success that we need to be looking at. Not the type of success that comes with fame, and that comes with TV paparazzi and the likes. No, it's the type where it's personal.
Yeah.
You have defined it for yourself and you've attained it by yourself. It's not known to the rest of the world. That's really success for me.
Okay. Well, so the people that you're thinking about, did you always like as you were coming into yourself, as you were like defining your like okay, for instance, for me as a photographer, right? I'm a photographer, that's what I do. That's my love life. I'm in love with photography. So when I was learning how to be a photographer, I had to emulate the greats, like the National Geographic photographers and everybody else. So did you have the people that you're thinking about, or are they the ones that you kind of like look up to when you were coming into yourself, or like trying to, because you know, to become something different or person you want to be, it's very rare that it's triggered in your own mind. You kind of like have to find something to, not in a sense like copy, but like to as a roadmap for something. Did you have a roadmap? That's what I should be asking you. Like, who was your roadmap for that?
So I'll tell you the it's it's very important that we consider mentorship or we
Hmm.
consider having mentors,
Yep.
and people who are in our lives who constantly are able to speak or guide or help us. I found out very early in life that having a mentor is very helpful. So I had mentors pretty early at 19. I started
Mm.
having mentors. And as I got out of college and started my career, I had career mentors. I had personal life growth mentors. I had spirituality mentors. And it's okay to look at every areas of our lives and have find mentors in every area of our life, because I believe very strongly that not a single person can encompass the entire totality of your life, such that they can be mentors for you in every area of your life. I don't think that's uh, uh, I don't think that's possible. It's just a
Yeah.
personal it's just a personal feeling. I feel like every we need to break down every area of our life, pick the professional part of our life or our career and find a career mentor, or pick the spirituality area and find a spirituality mentor, pick the personal growth, a relationship, find a relationship mentor, someone that I look for. So I did have a different personalities that I looked up to in different for different areas of my life. I started my very first business as a young teenager. So I had business mentors. I have people today that I look up to in the business field that I respect and really follow their strategies very closely. I read a lot of books written by some of these successful people. So I have people that I look up to. And
Hmm.
when I take some of their roadmaps or when I take some of their blueprints, either through reading their books or listening to their interviews, I ask myself, how does this align with my personal goals and my personal purpose? Because at the end of the day, even though you have a mentor and a coach, you're still an individual and your life is not 100% copy of your mentor's life. So you're going to pick some lessons from the mentor, but then you're going to adapt those lessons to yourself, your life, your purpose, and your goals.
I think we're in sync right now. We are in sync because you answered my next question, which was to what extent should somebody emulate someone else's path to
Yeah,
success? So
it
it's yeah, you kind of you touched on it. If you want to add more to it, to what extent should somebody follow someone else's foot I mean path? Um so if you want to add more to that, you can.
I mean, it's important that we have mentors. It's
Hmm.
important that we have coaches and and guides and whatever you want to call it. Again, but we have to remember that we are individuals ourselves and we have an individual race to run.
Hmm.
And when we pick up lessons from our mentors, when we pick up guidance and counsel from our coaches and mentors, we need to always sit down and evaluate those advice and see what role those advice would play in our lives. And then we can adapt them or sometimes maybe put them on hold, depending on where we want to go in our life. So, yeah, it's important to have those advice, it's important to have those mentoring sessions, but then you always have to check it with your personal goals and what your reality is.
I usually call that I usually tell people the executive decision is with you. You have to make, you can listen to advice, ask your friends and family and mentors, but the executive decision is with you. You make the final call as far as like which way you want to go. I'm going to take this time to thank our partners, which are Shokarella, and we have Book It Right Accountancy, College Cafe Consulting, and Financial Education. They are great partners who help us make this show possible. Um, so, Babs, um, what does the term "be on your purpose" mean to you?
Be on your purpose means essentially living your purpose. It's it's not enough to know what your purpose is.
Mhm.
The acknowledgement, the knowledge and acknowledgement of purpose does not guarantee its fulfillment. So it's one thing to know, but then it's another thing to walk on the path that helps you fulfill that purpose. So I believe being on your purpose is being on the path to
Mhm.
fulfilling that purpose.
Okay. And I think that kind of like goes into my next question. Like, how do you know you're on the right path? Like how do you know? Because be on your purpose, but if how do you know if you are on the right purpose, I would say, or the purpose?
Right. Well, I mean, I test this with three questions.
Hmm.
The first question is satisfaction.
Okay.
How satisfied are you with this area of your life?
Mm,
How satisfied are you with this area of your life? One. Second question is how fulfilled do you feel with this area of your life? So it's satisfaction,
hmm.
it's fulfillment. And then another question is what are there opportunities for continuous growth?
Mm,
Because purpose is not really it's not a specific destination.
yeah.
Purpose is ongoing, constantly evolving, and so we're constantly reaching deeper and deeper. So you don't wake up one day and say, "Yeah, I've achieved my purpose, and so I'm done." No, you continue to go deeper, and several deeper phases and evolution of your purpose continues to evolve as you grow.
Hmm.
So the third question is about continuous growth. Is there an opportunity for continuous growth? Now, if the answer is yes to all these three, you want to put it on a scale of 0 to 10. How
Mm.
satisfied am I?
Uh,
0 to 10 with this, thing and this path or this purpose that I think that I'm engaging in. The next question is on a scale of 0 to 10. How satisfied of mine. The one thing that I feel very strongly about is purpose constantly fills you. You cannot operate in your purpose and be empty. It
mm.
constantly fills you. So
Woo!
when you operate in purpose, you are filled. You cannot
Mhm,
be you would not need someone to wake you up to motivate you.
mhm,
It's your motivation. So purpose is all encompassing. So you cannot be in purpose and be talking about not being satisfied. So
mm,
when you rate from 0 to 10 how satisfied you are, that could begin to give you an opportunity or an idea if you're on that path or not. And the last one is contribution. So on in this area of my life, how much contribution am I making in this area or in this journey of purpose? Now, the one thing that purpose doesn't do is purpose does not withhold. It doesn't withhold. Purpose gives freely. And
mm,
so if you're in purpose, you're constantly contributing. And that's why people say they feel a deep desire to go volunteer for animal shelter, but they don't even know why they're doing it. Because if you are in your purpose, it's a calling to give. So
Yeah.
you constantly are giving. And so if you are not able to rate yourself, your ability to contribute in your life from 0 to 10, then you probably aren't quite on that path.
Man, listen, I like you, Babs, because usually when I ask people this question, they give you like a whole essay about like what it is, but you're like, I have 3 questions. And honestly, I was shocked. I was like, oh, three? But when you start breaking it down, I think it makes perfect sense. And I think the most important thing that caught me was when you said satisfaction and then you said fulfillment. And I think a lot of time we confuse the two. Just because I'm satisfied doesn't mean I'm fulfilled. Just because I'm fulfilled doesn't mean I'm satisfied. But it's like how do you, it's like different shades of gray. Maybe I shouldn't use that term, but different shades of the same color. And but they make a big difference. And like, how do you know which like how do you differentiate satisfaction and fulfillment? Because they can feel the same thing.
Yeah, let me give an example.
Uh-huh.
If you are hungry
Hmm.
and you ate a meal, what you get is satisfaction.
Okay.
If you are hungry
Hmm.
and you get a meal and the meal is nutritious and healthy at the same
Hmm.
time, what you get is deeper than satisfaction.
Yeah.
Because first your tummy is satisfied, but then your brain is filled with joy because
Hmm.
you feel something in you that, oh, I ate a healthy meal. And so I'm
Mm.
contributing towards something deeper.
Yeah.
So that's how I can very simply differentiate satisfaction from fulfillment. It's the
Mm.
same. It's the same action.
Yeah.
You ate a meal, but one person ate a nutritious, healthy meal, and the other one just ate a meal.
Hmm.
And so both of them have their tummies filled because they're satisfied, but then the other person is deeper than satisfied, and that's when fulfillment comes in.
Listen, man, that was, I thought about when you said it, and I think I just love the way you explain things, your analogies. That I would, I thought about the shade, the color shades, and all that, but the way you described it with the food was very succinct, and it just made sense. It just made sense. Um, so as far as goals are concerned, how does a person set goals towards that purpose? So like, well, okay, you find your purpose, but how do you set goals to actually achieve that purpose or move towards that purpose?
Well, thank you for that question because that's a very important question. It's one thing to know what your grand vision is, but then vision without an action plan is just you're just maybe just massaging your egos, uh, essentially. So I'll give you a simple example. I was on the continent of Africa. I was working. I had a very satisfying career. I had done very well for myself. But then I decided when I was doing this realistic self-assessment, which I wrote about in my book,
Hmm.
I in that moment I decided that I needed something bigger than what I was doing in terms of my career. So
Okay.
I do this for every area of my life. And so I arrived at a huge goal, a huge, objective, career
Hmm.
destination where I really wanted to land ultimately when I think about the end of my career, what I want it to be. But then, and that's where we start. You get that big picture,
Hmm.
and then you begin to work backwards from that big picture.
Okay.
And then you ask yourself questions like, what are the milestones that I need to achieve that would get me to this destination?
Hmm.
An example, you say you want to go to a party. That's the grand vision. But then what are the milestones that you need to achieve to get you to a party? First, you need to wake up on time.
Yep.
Second, you need to get in the shower. Next, you need to call an Uber if you're not driving. And then lastly, you need to get out of the Uber,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So you have to set those timeline, those milestones, and they can help you. But then, not only are you setting milestone, you're attaching every milestone to a timeline.
Mm.
So you have a timeline. This is where many of us miss it. We we have the grand vision, we have the goals, we have the milestone broken down, but we refuse to add the timeline and work towards the timeline.
Mm.
So when I got this vision, I said to myself, well, in order to achieve my vision, I needed to be physically closer to my vision. It was that day I made a decision that I was going to migrate to the United States
Wow.
because, yes, so I set in motion that plan on that day. It was on in South Africa when I made that decision because I have this goal, and this goal might take me 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to get to my goal, I have to be physically closer to my
Mm.
goal. And so I made that decision to get there. In my book, I talked about 5 P's to help you achieve your success in life. 5 P's. And one of them is place. And for me, some visions would never be achieved except the place is right. In
Yeah.
fact, certain visions are built for specific places. And so you have to step into that place in order to achieve that vision. So, for instance, you cannot achieve the vision of becoming a medical doctor if you haven't gone to medical school. That's a place, and so you probably cannot achieve um, becoming the president of the United States of America if you live in Canada. So certain visions are for a specific location, and so
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand that. So I think when we have this purpose in life, we have to remember to find ask yourself this question every day. I ask myself, what is the one thing that I need to do today that gets me one step closer to my purpose?
Yep.
And that's the question we need to ask every day. What is the one thing I need to do today? And for me, the one thing I need to do today is to come on this call
Yeah.
because I believe that being on this call, I'm going to inspire someone to greatness, which is my ultimate purpose in life. So, what's that one thing I need to do every day? But then, as you do those every day, you build the muscle that encourages you to lean towards your purpose, and you're constantly, and don't get me wrong, life's distractions will come every now and again,
Mm-hmm.
family, with a job, whatever, distractions will come along the line, but you've got to always find balance in life such that you're always leaning back into that ultimate purpose of yours.
Man, I tell you, you need to write a lot more books. You need to write a lot more books because I think you have so much to give to this world, and you need at least, I don't know who we need to call to make that happen, but we need to, you need to have a lot more books out there. A lot, a much. I don't know, man. I'm just seeing it. I'm just seeing
You're
it.
so kind.
I'm
You're
just,
so kind.
listen. I don't say this often, but I'm just seeing it, and I think no, I think it's just like through this conversation, you're kind of like not kind of, but you are answering a lot of questions that I have, and finding it's great that you said being in place for that goal. It's like, if you want to, you know create policies for on a grander scale, like nationwide policies, you might want to move to DC, you know and if you want to do work in Haiti, that are very impactful, you might want to move closer. If you can't live in Haiti, move to Florida, or like, move near, or something at least one step closer to that goal. um and oh man, that answer kind of threw me for a loop, I tell you. um so maybe we touched on this, but just to be like, go back, what are the telltale signs that your goals are aligned with your purpose? Like, what are the symptoms, or like the clues? It's like, yes, I can wake up. Some people are just good at following through with things. Like, I'm going to build a website. They said it, they're going to do it. But how do you know that um, you're not confusing that with your ability to follow through and your purpose?
That's a good question, and it has a very simple answer. Honestly, the
Hmm.
simple answer is, what is your why for that
Hmm.
goal?
Okay.
If you dig through that goal, you peel all the layers, and you ask yourself deeply within you, what is the why? Okay, I need to change my job. What is your why?
Hmm.
What's motivating you to change your job? Oh, I need to start my own business, quit my job and start my own business. What is the why? If the why is so that you can open more opportunities for young people, and that is exactly what your purpose is, then you can tell that this goal is aligned.
Hmm.
But then if the goal is so you can make more money, which never happens, by the way, people who quit there, and as I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a bummer, but I mean, anybody who quits their job to go start a business because they want to make money, it just never happens. That's not how entrepreneurship works. But yeah, you want to test your goal by that question of why.
Hmm.
Why this goal? And when you find your why, you can see if that why is pretty close to your purpose or not. If it's far from your purpose, then don't do it.
Okay. There. Yeah. Huh. And huh. Okay. So a lot of the um I guess the other side of purpose, a lot of it is kind of aligned with like money. I think a lot of times money has the the power to pull us away from our purpose. And how do you deal with the constant conflict of money? It's like, yeah, I want to do X, Y, Z, but this job is offering me this amount of money, even though it's out of the way, but it's a lot of money. So how do you deal with this constant conflict, especially if you're good at your job? If you're good at what you do, like you are great at what you do, but I'm sure there are, some moments where you have conflicts, like, should I do this or should I do that? This one gives more money, but it's not exactly aligned with what I want to do. So how do you overcome that conflict?
So there are three things to keep in mind when it comes to money, and we have to understand that our attachment and to money is born out of three things: it's fear, it's safety, and connection. Fear, safety, and connection. We are constantly chasing money because we're afraid of poverty.
Hmm.
We are constantly seeking more money because it provides in our mind some form of safety. And our reptilian brain constantly seeks to protect us.
Hmm.
Our reptilian brain constantly thinks to sees everything else as danger, and so wants to protect us. And the last reason why we think about money so deeply, or we chase money so deeply, is because of connection. Because there is a certain type of connection that you can access with money. Now, if we have safety, the fear, safety, and connection are the three things that we constantly need from money.
Hmm.
But what's interesting is we actually need to understand that we can overcome those three things without necessarily using money. So, money is a tool.
Uh-huh.
And until we understand that money is not something that you just grab and go do whatever you want. No, money is a tool, and except there is a problem, there is no need to exchange money. So you exchange money because you're hungry.
Hmm.
You exchange money because you're running out of clothes and you need clothes. So money is a tool that solves a specific problem. And so when we talk about making more extra dollars, it's because maybe we have experienced poverty before, and we're like, no, I'm not going back to this. I am not going back to this life of poverty, which is absolutely understanding. But there is a deep joy that comes from living in purpose. See, there are certain things that money cannot buy. And For instance, money cannot buy time, really. Money cannot buy health. Money cannot buy relationships. All of these you cannot achieve by money. So, what you want to do is when you're in the conflict of between logic and emotion, emotion always wins. So,
Mm,
what you want to do all the time is ask yourself between money, what money can buy, and what money cannot buy, because very often when we are shifting towards one, the other one is suffering.
yep.
So, if you're shifting towards what money can buy, very often there might be something that money cannot buy that's at the expense of
Mm,
that decision. So you always want to ask yourself, where do I want to stay? Where do I want to operate? Where do I want to be? What gives me deeper joy? Is it the extra cash in my hands, or the extra hour with my spouse? Is it the extra box in my hand, or just a little more time with my family? I give you one story to wrap this question up, and it's the story of a client of mine who, on his 70th birthday, told me, you see, he woke up that morning and he felt very empty. There was a whole big party that was, you know, prepared for him because it was his 70th. What had happened was he was born and raised in poverty. And
mhm,
so he decided that he would never return to poverty. And so he worked hard, so hard, he built businesses, and then he began to make money. Now, as he made more money, he worked even harder. And that's the rabbit hole that we have to be careful about here. And so, as he worked harder, he had less time. And now he was 70 years old. He had multiple businesses, very successful, but then he woke up and there was nobody around him to say happy birthday to him.
mm.
So he said to me that this is the worst day of my life. So
Wow.
we do not want to wake up on our 70th birthday after spending 40 years of our lives hustling so hard and making all the money, but then there are no friends, no families to celebrate these beautiful moments and beautiful times with. I think really it's not the length of time, but the quality of time. And I think we should focus on those things that money cannot buy. Like the man said to me, he said, listen, Babs, I am so rich in what money can buy, yet so poor in what money cannot buy. So we don't ever want to find ourselves 40 years down the line saying those same exact words. So that's why we have to balance the conflict of money and other areas of our lives.
Mm, wow. So I get back to you and say, is it ever okay to choose money over the purpose? You know, like somebody can be in a tough spot and they get a good job offer for like um, you know, that could get them out of that tough spot. But is it ever okay to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this?
It is fine for um, this would be an individual decision to
Hmm.
make, depending on what's going on in our individual lives. Uh, but we have to keep in mind, though, that survival is the biggest enemy of purpose.
Mm. Ooh.
So when you decide, after going through hell and
Uh-huh.
high waters, when you finally arrive at your purpose and you find what your purpose is,
Hmm.
the first and biggest enemy to stepping into fulfilling and living that purpose is your need to survive today.
Mm.
So survival becomes your biggest enemy. And I understand that many of us have come from backgrounds that are shaky, that are difficult, and so we need to take care of our current need. What you need to do and keep in mind while doing that is this: although your back your back I mean, although your current situation and your background may have attempted to put you low, what you want to do is ensure that even though your back is on the ground, your mind is high above the ground.
Hmm.
So if your mind is high above the ground, chances are you would rise again. So yes, there might be opportunities due to the pressures of life and the challenges of life where you might want to take care of the immediate need, which is survival. But while you're taking care of your immediate need, do not lose focus of your purpose. That's how I would answer that, because their life, I have to acknowledge that there are life's challenges that can be very difficult sometimes, and they need you to just jump in and find an immediate solution. But while you're doing that, you have to keep in mind that, listen, this is not my destination, this is just a passageway, and
Mhm.
it's fine.
I have this saying. I forgot where I heard it, but I kind of like I switches it up. I switch it up every once in a while. The way you survive is not how you live. You can apply it to many different things in life. What you do to survive isn't or aren't the same things you do to just live a happy life. And I think what you just described kind of like brought that back into my mind. Um, uh, let's see here. So now, how do you um, kind of like do a mental shift into switching from surviving to just or at least defeat survival, that survival instinct every day to actually that going against that purpose? How do you have a mind shift to deal with that?
Well, I guess the first thing is to begin to, so our minds are like soil to plants.
Hmm.
If you want any seed to produce, to germinate and blossom, you need to put that seed in a fertile ground, in a fertile soil. And that's what our minds are. So what I often advise my clients is to first work on that mind.
Hmm.
How do you do that? You nourish the mind. If you want fertilizer, you put what I call fertilizer in the mind. You nourish your mind such that it's able to conceive something deeper than survival. Now, a mind that is only able to think survival may not be rich enough to conceive something deeper than survival. So, what you want to do is expose your mind to something deeper. Now, listen to information that can be helpful, read books that are challenging, that are very helpful, follow mentors, follow people, and just expose your mind. I read a lot. And I guess that's probably one of the things that has helped me through my journey is there was a time 10 years, over a 10-year period, I read 52 books for 10 years.
Wow.
So 520 books in one decade. It was just
Wow.
because I wanted to expose my mind to a lot of information, and it was very helpful in defining the path that I chose in life. So I think the first step is honestly to begin to nourish our minds with the positive energy and the positive information that we need to build that, you know uh, uh, the ability to make a shift. So a person doesn't suddenly shift from survival to purpose. It doesn't happen suddenly. It's a whole process, and that process starts with just nourishing the mind. And how do you nourish the mind? You expose the mind to all the kinds of informations that are helpful in building that space, or that helping in that mind shift.
Because a lot of times, like, we're not aware that we're in survival mode, because we may not have the awareness, self-awareness to actually realize that, oh, I'm only doing this because of XYZ. So um at what point does like a therapy help in this
You
process?
it's I mean, it, therapy is always helpful.
Hmm.
I encourage everyone who needs therapy to ask for therapy or to get help as much as they can. Therapy helps to elicit some of these um, behaviors that we're talking about.
Hmm.
I also think that another way to do this is to just take a note, make a note of some of the experiences you had as a child, because our childhood experiences play more important roles in our lives than we even want to acknowledge.
Hmm.
Now ask yourself questions like, what are the experiences that I had as a child? What are some of the limiting beliefs that I had? And your question is, we might not even know that we're in survival mode. So a way to think or to ask yourself realistic questions is, having made in that point where you're about to make a very important decision,
Hmm.
this is what I do. And I put the options down, I drop my pen, and I close my eyes for a moment and ask myself, what other perspectives have I not considered? So this is what Survivor does to you. Survivor makes you think of now.
Hmm.
Now, I need bread right now. I need food right now. I need my rent paid right now. I need bills paid right now. But if you drop the pen and lift your head up, because Survivor keeps your head down
Yeah.
now. So all you need to do is lift your head up and ask yourself, what are some other perspectives to this the same decision? Are there other opportunities? It's the same way I walk my clients through behavioral change. I ask them, what are the benefits that you gain today from this behavior? And then after writing these benefits, I tell them, put the pen down, close your eyes, and ask yourself, how else can I achieve the same benefits with a healthier behavior? So when you have that one moment to just breathe and ask yourself, what is another perspective? There's so many perspectives to every concern and problems and challenges and decisions that we want to make in life. But because we're in survival mode, we only see one perspective, and that perspective is dollars and cents. So, but I like to finish with this, and that's the fact that sometimes, and this is very important, if you have long-term perspectives, it's always very helpful, because in some instances I have asked my clients to take a pay cut
Mm.
because I did this myself. I have asked my clients to go take a pay cut and take a job at a position that's probably lower than their current position because of the long-term benefits. So if we're able, we are no longer in the generation where we're able to delay gratification.
Yeah.
And that's one of our biggest problems as a generation today. We're not able to delay our gratification. If we're able to delay gratification, and I'll paint that picture real to you. So what happened was, when I started my career, I was at a job where I was doing pretty well. But I knew that the future that I want for my career is very massive. But then to get to that future, I needed to shift the industry that I was in. And so to shift that industry, I had to take a pay cut, and I had to get a demotion in terms of what is perceived to be a lower position. But I worked at that job for 5 years and gained all the skills that I needed. I
Hmm.
gained all the experiences that I needed. And guess what? When I went back into the industry that I left to get a job, I was not looking for the next position next higher. I got 3 times more
Mm.
in terms of position, in time, in terms of pay. And so I became the boss to my colleagues that I left 4 years ago.
Wow.
So this is some perspectives. If we have long-term thinking and we
Hmm.
understand that this is a temporary pain for a permanent gain. So I'm always willing to take a temporary pain as long as I'm assured of a permanent gain.
Mm. I think this. We have one question in the chat that touched like that. Address what you just said. The person asked, "What advice would you give to a quiet quitter that does want to transition out of their current job but are scared to take the leap?"
That's a very beautiful question, I must say. And there's so many people in this position today. And I understand the realities that bills need to get paid. There's certain things that we want to pay attention to, and we want to be responsible adults. My recommendation is to, rather than rather than staying at a place where we think we're probably not satisfied, not making any contribution, and we don't feel an opportunity for personal growth. What I would say is, while still there, that we're dusting up all our resumes and we're putting out word and asking for opportunities elsewhere. Now, it's always difficult to make a jump, especially if you're comfortable in the place that you are. So if you've achieved some, comfort where you are, because you don't know if the grass is going to be greener on the other side, we're always scared to jump. But the truth is, it's not really the failed opportunities that count. Is very often the failed attempts that counts is the missed opportunities. So the question is, what if? So what happens if I take the leap? So what if I swim? Or what if I sink? Very often people think about the sinking part, but you probably also want to shift again. Remember the idea of shifting, of pulling the pen down and asking what other perspectives are there. And the other perspective could be that you could actually um, swim.
Mhm.
So my encouragement is, if there's any skill that you need to build to transition into a new job, or if there's any certification you need to do, if there's any networks you need to begin to call, just start. If all you can do is ask for a 30 minutes call from another organization, you're not making that move, you're not jumping yet, but you're just asking for a call from an organization that you might want to, with someone on the organization or in the team that you might want to work for. Just begin to open those types of conversations and begin to have, network calls. That's a soft and very easy way if you're worried about jumping. I think that might be helpful, but ultimately, you would have to take that leap of faith and trust that it works out.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everyone to we have the free, 30-minute coaching session with Babs. Just type the hashtag PD with NAAHP to enter to win a free 30-minute coaching session where you can have 100% of his attention on you. And so just to add to I'm gonna just talk about myself here for a second because I went through the same thing last year where I told you I was working as a paralegal for like 8 years and I enjoyed it, but last year I realized that I reached, although I was okay, I was making like enough money, but I reached a ceiling because paralegal, you can be 10-year paralegal, 20-year paralegal, but there's no there's not that much growth opportunity, and it was difficult to do. That survival instinct was there. And, also like friends and family telling you, you're making good money now. Why are you going to rock the boat? And I quit. I didn't have any job lined up. I realized that I had to deal with the survival of it, which was money. So I design a strategy to save up enough. That way, I give myself months like I had enough money to survive for months. So that way, I didn't have that urge to like that thing in your throat. You feel like, oh man, how am I going to pay my bill next month? How am I going to do this? So once I realized that was my main concern, I decided to create a saving plan before I quit and create a saving plans for the next few months. And once I quit, I didn't have that fear anymore because I knew whatever happens, I'm okay for the next few months. And I left that job. And also the other part was dealing with my own ego because I was going into a new field that I had zero experience in. So I checked my ego and I took an internship. I became an intern. I'm probably one of the oldest interns there, but I'm an intern and I'm learning a lot. I am a lot happier. I can see, like, now the sky's the limit. Even though I'm making a lot less than I was making, the fact that I dealt with my own insecurities and ego and survival instinct with money, I'm able to like enjoy the process instead of like worrying about the next paycheck. I'm enjoying this experience being an intern and learning as much as I can. And I just feel a lot happier, a lot better, And a person who asked this question, maybe you can use my experience also as a, kind of like a guide. But that's what worked for me. And I just, it's important to kind of deal with what Babs said, like whatever is making you scared, how do you deal with it? That way you can have a smoother transition into your next, into your future. Um,
That's a very beautiful story, and I'm very, very impressed. Thank you for sharing that
Thank you,
story.
man. Thank you.
Very, very impactful. I can also add one last idea for that person who asked the question, and that's sometimes you have the opportunity, if you do, to take your entire PTO at once and go spend it somewhere, clear your head, you're not at work, and just make sure that that period is when you want to completely focus on pursuing a new opportunity. So you're still employed, you're still being paid if salary is the problem, but then you have this time to yourself. It's your leave, it's your personal leave period. Now you can really throw yourself in and go hard on finding another opportunity. And if you say to yourself, before this paid leave is over, I want to at least have some conversations that can help me get excited about something else.
Yeah. So we're coming down to the wire here. It's kind of like we're just kind of like I have this coworker who's he's a army veteran, well, Marine veteran. Well, man, he would be angry if I said army. Because they have this term they say walk the dog. It's like going through a very detailed look into this. So in talking about the main habits for a successful life and successful career, and we kind of like went through the systematic approach from, like, from start, we get into the end line here. um what are the main habits for a successful, I'm not just going to say a successful career, but a successful life and career, because we know those two kind of, they have to go hand in hand.
Well, positivity
Hmm.
is the first. So if you want to see a man uh, that is able to move his life or her life, or a person who's able to move his or her life from one place to another, to a desired destination, the one thing they may have done is they may have injected some positivity in themselves. So, what you want to do as much as possible is to reduce every negativity
Mm,
as much as possible. Even if you work at a job that you don't like, even if you work with people you do not like, even if your current experiences are negative, you do not allow that negativity to come inside of your core.
mm.
You want to protect your core with every fiber of your being. You want to ensure that although you are swimming in murky waters and dirty waters of New York, or that although you are swimming in this, what we call beaches in New York, you are not letting the dirty water get into you.
Mhm,
So that's the very first thing that I encourage people to do. Block off every negative access. Block off every negative access and ensure that you're constantly in tune with yourself and you're feeding your spirit and your mind with a lot of positivity. That's one. And then another very important habit is the habit of productivity. uh, we waste a lot of time in the professional world, and time, they say, is money, but I like to say that time is life, because
mm,
when you go to the grave, uh, cemetery, what you see is only a definition of time. So a person's life is summarized in time. So time is life. And so time wasters are life wasters.
mm,
So in order to reduce your time wastage, what you need to do is become as productive as possible. And to get productive, you have to build the habits of time management. So you have to set alarms if you need to set alarms. You have to appear um, um, on time, and you have to be productive, make good use of time. And I understand that sometimes you might be at work and maybe it's just it's light. There's not so much to do, but don't that's not a time to just, chat around and just waste time. Understand that time is life, and so make good use of uh, that time. Very important. So time management, productivity skills, being generally productive is very helpful in helping us. And I think the habit of gratitude is very important as well. I might not be where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be.
Mm,
We
yeah,
always need to keep that in mind.
yeah,
This might not be where I want to be, but I'm also not where I started.
yeah.
So we've got to keep a gratitude journal or whatever way that you have to document your gratitude to always remind you where you started
Hmm.
and where you are today. That might inject some positivity in you. So I think when we put effective time management, productivity skill, gratitude, and positivity together, we probably are on our path to something decent. Now, the last one is resilience, because life's journey is really rough. It's very rough. The the highway of success is filled with potholes, and so we always need to ensure that every pothole doesn't just knock us down and we quit. No, we need to build roots. Resilience is very critical. If there's anything you want to take out of this um, talk today, it should be growing stronger roots. It should be growing deeper. Or, if you will, the title of one of my books, Growing Downwards, which really means that rather than focusing on what people can see at the surface, you want to focus on what is beneath. Because what is beneath is what determines how strong what is above would be.
Hmm.
So, like the tree, the bamboo tree, Chinese bamboo tree, you want to grow deep roots so that when the wind of life blows, you are assured of safety. But then if the roots are shallow, but then the branches are so massive, when the wind of life comes, there's nothing that holds you to the ground. There's nothing that keeps you grounded. So I think one of the habits that I encourage most people is resiliency. Yeah, you were knocked down the first time, you got to get up and get back to it. You were knocked down the second time, you got to get up and get back to it. Think about the richest men that you know today. It's not education. It's not because they had the highest level of education. It's not because they're special. No, it's really simply because they're resilient.
Hmm.
So they fail multiple times, but then they continue. So the ability to continue in the face of failure is really what differentiates successful people from failures.
Woo, tell you. So listen, your book. Where can people find it? Because I feel like everyone this should be like prescribed in schools. Like before you go into like graduate college, so anybody should be reading your book. So how can somebody find your book?
You're very kind. Thank you so much. Well, my book, Cracking the Life Code, can be found on Amazon, Cracking the Life Code, and it's also on our website, crackingthelifecode.com. It you can get a copy at crackingthelifecode.com or Amazon.
I recommend everyone if you're watching this buy this book, Cracking a Life Code, Amazon. Go on the website and get it for yourself. Um, so as we're winding down here, it's been a beautiful conversation. I always look forward to this kind of interactions. Especially, we've never really talked this much. We met for like 10 minutes, but I also like it this way because I get to experience this in real time with everyone else. And I enjoy it more. And I think your journey and what you have to offer to the world is a lot. And I think this is just the beginning for you. There's a lot more to come. And yeah, man, I just appreciate you. Thank you. Um, do you have any final remarks that you want to make? Anything you want to tell anyone? How can anyone reach out to you or speak with you?
Well, I mean, the last thing I would say, but By the way, thank you so much for that beautiful comment. You're so kind. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I did enjoy this conversation as much as you did. Thank you. I want to leave our viewers and audience with this one thing. It's okay to take some time for yourself. While chasing professional success and personal success and whatever form of success we are looking for, please do not forget to take some time to care for yourself. Self care is as critical as any form of success that we might be looking to achieve. So please, as you go about your business, as you go about your academics or your job, your career, please take some time. It's okay to take some time to care for yourself. Every sound mind deserves a great body. So give your body a little bit of a treat. That would be my last word.
Listen, I'm just gonna clap for you, man. I'm just gonna clap. Um, but listen, I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate you and everything you've shared with us today, your knowledge. Thank you for joining us, and thank you everyone for joining us today on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Um, and again, my name is Wolf Pamphile, and Mr. Babs. Thank you. I keep saying thank you. I just, I'm so grateful. I keep saying thank you, but yeah, thank you, folks. This is our time, and it's been a beautiful conversation. Feel free to go back and rewatch this video, pause it, as you're showering, play it in the background when you're cooking, play it in the background, because I think this is one of those conversations that you have to revisit over time, just to kind of like, because can be in different areas in life, different times in life, where certain message would mean different things, and this is one of those conversations. And I think just one of the things, you got to like bookmark it and just keep replaying over and over. And with that said, thank you again for joining us at NAAHP. And we love having these kind of conversations. And we're looking forward to having more and bringing more interesting guests like Mr. Babs here. And thank you, and have a beautiful afternoon.
Thank you.